All right, so we're gonna get into. Hold up. We're gonna get into the early history of China, specifically with the song Dynasty. The beginning of this isn't really in our class. However, the Southern Song Dynasty starts to get into it just a little bit. I think about 70 years in. So, here we go. So today we're going to be talking mainly about Confucianism and the meritocracy that China has set up, especially at the turn of the millennium. So, just a quick overview of the Song Dynasty in general before we get too far into it. They were influenced heavily by Confucius's ideals of I'm not quite sure how to say that, filial piety, right? Anyways, it's family values, humaneness, and ritual. We're going to get into that more later in the more Confucian side of this PowerPoint. They also set up a lot of future advancements, such as gunpowder empires, with their invention of fireworks and eventually guns, but I believe I watched a lecture there. They actually didn't really use guns in combat because it was too cost inefficient for them, so they continued using swords because they didn't really need the guns. But that was an advancement that definitely changed history in the future. They also set up the whole navigation, exploration thing with navigation innovations such as the astrolabe. And like I said earlier, the Southern Song Dynasty was mainly in our class. It started in 1127, I believe. And it was caused by a massive migration wave, and pretty much they settled at the new capital city. Don't recall the name, but they settled at a new capital city, and they started the new Song Dynasty. So, Confucianism. Again, that little filial piety, I believe it is just good conduct to one's parents. Confucianism is really based on the family. As you can see also with humaneness or Ren, it's also another value that they had to abide by. It's parent protection to kids. So it's kind of a two-way street there. You have kid protection, you have parent protection. Then they also, as many other ancient societies, they had some pretty questionable, well, at least modern, rituals such as sacrifices to the gods, ancestors, and sages. This was very common, actually. And as the Song Dynasty, this wasn't the case in the early Song Dynasty, but as they advanced through and started getting better building technology, they began to construct temples for worship to their ancestors, which was actually a very large staple in Confucianism. They also had the 5 bonds in life. I don't have the exact bonds, but pretty much it's like mother, father, father, son, brother, brother. It's really just connecting in with the Song Dynasty's Confucian values that are very family-centric. And with this, Confucianism also spread to much of East Asia, mainly because of the Mongol dynasty later on. And this is also Neo-Confucianism. Confucius was alive BC, I believe, but this is more of the modern evolution to it for their time period. And because of Confucianism, they set up a meritocracy, which was based on a civil service exam. This civil service exam was obviously based on Confucian principles so that they could figure out who knew the most about Confucianism and who would be the most willing to express those Confucian values. This often included things such as Tang poetry, which were little readings that promoted Confucian family values. And the civil service exam, believe it or not, actually was like the decider of one's life. So if families, especially more wealthy families, often found materials to make sure that their kids knew as much as possible, but the poor families often didn't have those tutoring materials. Therefore, they were often stuck in the lower rungs of society unless an anomaly happened. So this was almost a sort of like the upward mobility. There was at least a chance, but it wasn't much of one because there was no real access to a quality education. So this made the social classes pretty stuck in place. But this meritocracy, as in its name, it operated as a bureaucracy as well, which means that there's non-elected officials that make state decisions. But the difference between a bureaucracy and a meritocracy is that these officials aren't really born into it or just like chosen because of favoritism. It's more because of the civil service exam in this case. So an overview of the Song Dynasty. Just a quick little thing here. They were ruled mainly by Confucian ideas and ran a meritocracy to ensure that this would continue on. And the Southern Song Dynasty was established in 1127, which is the one that we're going to study for AP World History, and was more commerce orientated than ever before, with inventions such as the astrolabe and gunpowder, which set up many future endeavors in world history that we look at, such as gunpowder empires, which we'll see in the Ottomans, and the astrolabe helped with navigations, which we may be able to see in my next presentation, which is over the Yuan dynasty, but you're probably going to see it more in the Ming dynasty. And that's all for today. Thank you.